I want to make a little summation that's kind of funny in a way about the remarks that I made contrasting the campaign of Ron Paul with that 64 one of Barry Goldwater. In 64, you never heard the weeping and the wailing like you heard from the Republicans. People felt like, well, the Republican Party has just been destroyed because they had the biggest election defeat almost that they'd ever had. That it was a playback of the Alf Landon campaign against Roosevelt, you know, in the depths of the Depression. But the funeral for the Republicans was extremely premature, because really what Goldwater did was just a few years ahead of his time, and that was kind of the beginning of Republican strength rather than the end of it. At the next presidential cycle, 4 years later, the unbeatable LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, was a retiree. And the politically dead the politically dead Richard Nixon was in the White House. He was literally resurrected. And the long-term dream that Goldwater had, someday he was going to be dominant in the Republican conservatives were going to be dominant in the South, this came to be 1,000 times greater even than Goldwater, seen as a visionary, had projected. And LBJ's state had all of the general candidates Republican, and that was true with most of the South. As the nation grew westward and southward, the whole strength of conservatism grew and grew. And what originally was a minority movement in a minority party became the majority movement in the majority party. So could you say that Goldwater had really killed the Republicans? And even the terrible setbacks like the Watergate scandal, and there are not many people going to brag about, oh, we got Nixon back in the office. But even that only slowed down very temporarily that ultimate growth of the Republican Party. So Goldwater was just ahead of his time, really. And so he certainly was not the one that murdered the Republicans. So today, you need to look at the Goldwater situation in a different light than what all of the pundits were trying to say back during the 60s. Then a second thing that I've sort of mentioned before, and that is that I think right now that Ron Paul is the most totally middle-of-the-road, America United, mainstream candidate that is out there, looking at all of them. Now, people are a little bit afraid of some of the things that he said, simply because they are accustomed to a dictator instead of a president. And he is so limited and bound by the constitutional duties of the presidency that he is not going to go off on any tangent. He puts America and its Constitution certainly above his personal preferences. Well, we know he has a lot of misgivings about things regarding the United Nations, regarding NAFTA, regarding the IRS, regarding the Federal Reserve Bank, and on and on. But the merit of a man, the measure of a person, is how he can deal with things that he's not in love with as his own personal project, that he deals with that fairly and squarely as perhaps a me-first American, but we need that kind of emphasis right now at this time in history. So he can cover the whole waterfront as far as the political spectrum between right and left and liberal and conservative and all of these things, bound by the Constitution, and his own personal preferences are secondary, believe me, to what he is entitled to do and expected to do and empowered to do as the president under our Constitution. And then finally, I would say this, that this is such a mainstream person. We have not thought of this in this light because of the unusual way that he was brought forward out of the grassroots. But the fact is that he will have the same kind of bipartisan respect and support that we had in the era of Ronald Reagan. And he goes back to Teddy Roosevelt as far as a person of vision and courage and integrity, and someone that crosses all of the areas and issues and political spectrums that we have out there. And right now, if you look at old Mount Rushmore and those faces carved up there, he is identifiable with most of them in his principles and in what he will do. Now, he is not a showman. He is not one that will glibly talk you into doing what you're not supposed to do in the first place. This is not the era for that kind of thing. This is the kind of era for what a person does and not for what a person says. And he is certainly the man for this era. And those liberal Republicans that have been kind of squeezed out of the party, or that may feel like it, now have someone that they can live with joyfully, because he covers all of the political spectrum. And those that are embarrassed by the movement toward the right that Goldwater inaugurated can see now that that movement is not rightward, nor is it leftward. It covers all of America. So for every reason that I can think of, and I could rave all night, I haven't found a single one in looking back at the Goldwater thing that haven't said that Ron Paul ought to be the next president of the United States. So this is the man to support financially and every other way, and to make this happen. Thank you.